Hello, Internet. My name is Nickbait, and I am joined by my co-host, Thrax.
Hello, Internet.
And this is the first in what we're hoping will become a series of regular Vodcast features for Playtopia.com.au.
Woo!
Woo! The joining of two Novocastrian gaming forces. How are you feeling, Thrax?
Oh, good. It's been so long since I've done a pod, and now I've got like this little extra element of excitement because it's not just a pod, it's a VOD. We can see each other and other people can see us. And I'm just a podcast where I just ramble, but now people can see me get animated and talk about stuff.
So is this some of the earliest you being on cam, is it? Like the first evidence of your face?
Well, apart from the Playtopia streams. Yeah, pretty much. I think I only started streaming properly when I redid Playtopia, since we've been talking about it, so the last like 3 months, maybe. Before that, yeah, very much off cam.
Yeah, that's fair. I am actually pretty new to getting my face out there as well. I have a writing background and you have a podcasting background. But I've been wanting to learn more and more and kind of branch out, and content has to be exciting again for me, and it was really stagnating. I won't say that we're too elitist in that we picked each other. I just feel like we've got the most free time out of everyone I know in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Which is still scarce. It's not much free time.
No, free time or dedicated time.
No worries.
That's it. Like, of what we do have, we've got the passion. We're bringing Playtopia back. Hopefully we do a lot more ramping up out of this pandemic world and into all the good stuff. The tournaments, the face-to-face stuff, the events. But we'll kick it off with some VODs.
Yeah, no, I am so keen to get out there and meet Newcastle gamers and, hit the road as well and go to media events. But I'm really excited just to play some retro games with people, get to meet people. You've been talking board games and card games and all sorts of other stuff as well, which is cool. I will definitely come and at the least film it if I cannot grasp it. We'll get more into how we kind of came together and what Playtopia is in a sec. But first, I just thought we would go through and just talk about some gaming news that we found interesting lately.
Let's do it. The gaming news.
No worries.
You like cut this bit and like zap in a little Batman thing. Like
I can. I will. I'll do something. I'll do something. SEGA have announced a Game Gear Micro.
I'm going to interrupt you before we get onto that.
Okay.
How do you feel about saying SEGA when legit promotional materials like they made consoles and games that are just like Sega?
I should start saying Sega because I do refer to every Mega Drive title as Genesis just so the internet understands what I'm talking about. Yeah, so fair. I will start saying Sega. Every single ad ever, including the really annoying Generation XE grunge ads, was kids having a seizure from playing games and they'd say Sega like really quickly. So
I'm a little bit of an elitist with the language, so I want to say Sega, but you say it, and here, especially like where we're from, say Sega and people are just like, what? Like, oh, you're a posh wanker. It's Sega, everyone knows it's Sega. Don't be a dick.
Maybe that's why every time I hound Sega for a community gig, they're like, no way, you can't even say it right.
On with the news.
On with the actual news. So Sega have announced a Game Gear Micro, a small, very small handheld re-release of their Game Gear handheld console from years and years and years ago. Mixed reactions to it so far. Thrax, have you checked it out?
I wouldn't say check it out as in bother to go and look up all the news articles and research more and more because you know what it is, right? Like it's a mini version of an old console. We're up to 4, 5, 6 of them out in the market. Nintendo did it. PlayStation jumped on it. Sega already did it with... They did a mini Mega Drive, I believe. And They've been doing like the shitty TV arcade game things for years. It's just going to be another emulator in a tiny computer, right?
Pretty much.
Except it's a really, really tiny computer and it's a really, really shitty system. So that's enough for me to not want it.
There's no word of them getting a Western release, and as much as I am a bit of a completionist and a collector, I'm a bit perturbed by the fact that there's only 4 games, there's 4 different versions of it. So if you want all 16 games that are re-released, you need to buy the handheld 4 times, and it costs roughly, they're guessing, $50 US per handheld console. It's a big no for me when you can get a Raspberry Pi or even a handheld emulator off Wish with every single Game Gear game and probably all the Master System games on it too.
Absolutely. I didn't know that detail about it. The 4 games, the 4 re-release, and they're like console specific. That, to me, that just screams money grab, right? Like, that is just insane. It's, let's just release some low-end piece of crap that the collectors will buy and cash in on a quick buck. And there can't be that many people who are that desperate to collect that sort of thing that you'd think a company the size of Sega would care about that sort of profit line.
100%. This thing, it looks like you get it with a Happy Meal. That's
I've seen a picture, and it's like this big in the guy's hand.
It would have made more sense to have a little keyring loop and get into that kitschy thing, but sell it cheaper. Like, oh yeah, $20 gets you a couple of Game Gear games, and you can hang them on your car keys if you're bored and you've got 2 minutes picking up the kids. Play a quick game of Batman or something.
Tell you what, $50 US, you can buy. Carry the one. Let's see. You could probably buy about 5 or 6 legitimate Game Gear games for that price. And the Game Gear it's a very moddable old unit, right? Like, if you've got an original Game Gear, you can convert it to, you can definitely convert the LCD or LED screen. You can replace the capacitors, which are the main thing that goes bad. You can do a sound mod on them. And I think you can even do something about the batteries, like put in a lithium mod. Like, you can actually make them a really cool modern day thing. Like, it still plays shit ass games and it's the size of a brick, but it's better than, you're probably going to spend less than $50 US in doing all the mods to a legit version of the console. That's a thumbs down for me.
Yeah, no, it's a big thumbs down for me. It's funny you say that, because when you talk about who would want it, and when you talk about a Game Gear enthusiast, I'm pretty sure that those people are the people that are likely to pick up a Game Gear and restore it, give it a backlit screen and give it all that stuff. Because I had a Game Gear, back in the day. I think it was around 89. I was only 4 or 5 years old. They just did not last. They were so bad with batteries that we actually just had it up on the kitchen bench, and it was permanently plugged into the AC adapter it came with. They
took like C's, didn't they? Like three or 4 C-size batteries.
There's either C's or it was something monstrous, like 8 AA batteries, something absolutely crazy like that.
Yeah.
I highly doubt we'll see it come over here, and if we do, I would just say it's probably going to be made by those AT Games who... I have a Sega re-release console behind me that it got reviewed so badly I never took it out of the box, and I knew I wasn't going to get a refund, and I knew it would be worth peanuts. So it's just a decorative piece behind me. But yeah, fairly interesting and disappointing decision by Sega on that one. Next up in news, I don't know if you've played Terraria. I'm going to make sure I pronounced that one correct. But Relogic have finally ended development on Terraria after 9 years of free updates, with a massive update called Journey's End, which rebalances some things in the game. They're talking about, as a whole, the game now has over 1,000 new items, over 16 bosses or something crazy like that. And the coolest part of them ending the development is they're releasing modding tools to the community so that the game can have an afterlife of sorts and just keep going.
That is... I haven't played it. I've owned it for a long time, and I've seen a lot of gameplay footage. But it's like a 4-player. You do a lot of co-op in it, right? So yeah. I think that's restricted me from ever jumping in and playing it. But that sort of development should speak volumes about Relogic's team and their vision and what they want to do with their game, what they did do with their game. Because first of all, 9 years is an incredible lifetime, life cycle for a game, and to continue developing it and releasing stuff for free. And it's not an expensive game, right? That's why it's sitting in my Steam library. Because I bought it on sale, thought it looks good, it's got good reviews, I'll get around to it one day. May never get around to it now. But then to give it the afterlife is something not many games see. Most companies focus on the next thing.
We talk a lot about, in today's games, a lot of people are cynics, and they see things... games coming out completely different from the trailers, coming out with less content, coming out unfinished. And here Terraria is a completely finished game that they just kept adding to and adding to. There were plans for a sequel, but it wasn't working out quite how they wanted. And they just resumed development on Terraria. it's you talk about the developer that you want to see in this day and age, and it absolutely has to be Relogic, and the game absolutely has to be Terraria. It's really just gone on and on and on. It's when
I
it
can't
first
believe came out in 2011.
No, it's crazy because I think I had it on Xbox 360, and then I had it on Xbox One, and I eventually picked it up on PC just in a sale or a humble or something like that. The only weakness with the game is you do need multiplayer to kind of beat the really high end stuff. But apart from that, it's a great game, and when it came out, it was a shame that people were reductive of it and saying it just looks like 2D Minecraft. It's more adventure focused, and you are grinding to get better gear, and it really just saps up your life. I can't play it because I won't be doing this podcast as regular as I had hoped. But yeah, well done to Relogic. Hey, it's really cool to see in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. We need like a little a golf clap thing, or actually like a round of applause, because you just don't hear about that from development teams. You quite literally only hear the other way. The cash grabs, the microtransactions, they're planning a sequel, they rush the sequel out, they just kill off the first game, the second one's trash, as per one of your recent stories. It's good to see.
Absolutely. Now, pass the reins over to you. You've got some news to bring up?
Yeah, well, in my world, it's I'm big into FPS. So my news this week, this fortnight, however often we're going to do this thing, is all in the Pro CS world. And these guys, they put themselves through the ringer, right? So the top level Counter-Strike players in the world, whether you follow or not, you may or may not know, their schedule is about 200 days a year that they're traveling. So,
wow.
Put that into perspective, it's not very many weekends, not very many dates back at home, all that sort of thing. And they travel all around the world. Usually the Americas, AU gets a stop each year, a lot around Europe. And their life revolves around moving from hotel to hotel or house to house, getting up and training at least 8 to 12 hours a day on Counter-Strike. And there's some of these guys have been doing it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years at the very top level. And just in the last month, probably as of speaking, I'd say 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, out of nowhere, there's been 3 or 4 major pros that have just stepped back. They've all put out the announcement saying we need to take an extended break, like 3 months off, 6 months off, something like that, because we've got burnout. It's like any pro athletic sport. They're developing injuries, they're developing RSI, they're just developing poor mental health from being on the road so long, not being able to do anything else with their life except to play a game. I think the exception to the rule is Forrest from ex-Ninjas in Pajamas, who now plays for Dignitas. He has continued at the top level, and he's one of the older statesmen in the game. And he's been able to have a family and has a new daughter and changing teams and that sort of thing. But we've had like Kiebi from North step down with medical complaint, and then 2 people almost simultaneously, I think they were a day apart, from Astralis. So Astralis are the best team in the world. And have been for a couple of years. They're an absolute powerhouse. And they had their in-game leader and they're probably one of their best strategists and one of the best strategists in the game, both step back a day apart from each other. So almost overnight, they brought in 2 subs. Prior to this, Astralis were seen signing additional players. And the esports world in Counter-Strike just started going ballistic because they're like, what are Astralis doing? It looked like they were trying to sign a 6-man roster or a 7-man roster. And everyone started observing. They're like, what are they going to do? Are they going to push tournament organisers to allow them to sub players in between rounds or between halves or between maps and that sort of thing? And then now, a few weeks later, a month later, it comes out, no, they were just grabbing whoever they could to fill the gaps because they knew they were about to lose their in-game leader. They knew they were about to lose their top strategist. And it's pretty crazy. It's also good because a lot of the top teams see the same group of people cycling around those teams, but they don't see many young new talent coming in. But now that people are forcibly stepping away, it also makes them wonder what's going to happen in 3 months' time or in 6 months' time. Are these people ever going to return?
I have so many questions about this, but also the pro scene and the lifestyles they must live. If you could answer them, I'm not too sure if you could. But I was lucky enough to meet, was it Legacy OCE, a League of Legends team, and they were based in, I believe, Bondi when I met them. They had an ex-Penrith Panthers from the NRL coach watch their replays. He lived at the house with them for a bit, told them how to get better, told them how to watch their own replays, just like NRL players do.
Yeah.
But the kids ate Chinese food and pizza all the time.
Yeah.
A pro gamers, especially the CSGO, you're talking about how much they're on the road. Do you know of any in particular that they eat right, or they try to get sleep, or they try to take a break? Are they playing multiple games as well? Because I know that Mind Freak have a Rainbow Six team, a Call of Duty team, and something else. And Buzzo is playing on all of them. And
wow.
It's crazy. You think about that, and the mind boggles, because being in my 30s and trying to lose weight and then trying to balance content creation to stay healthy and be in content, you've really got to have a balance. And I'm fortunate that now I'm a stepfather, but if I had kids early on, there's no way I would have been able to be a full-time journalist from home like I was, or any of that stuff, let alone a pro gamer.
Yeah. So with in the top tiers of CS, at least, I don't know of any players who are playing any other esports apart from dabbling in the latest games like Valorant, which I'll go to next. When they're at home, they're on stream, they're doing something in the public eye. They'll play other games, but not competitively and not in any other competitions. As far as the organizations go, they try and look after the players. Most teams will have a coach, a paid coach, mostly around strategy and bouncing off the in-game leader, calling in-game. As far as how they live, sometimes they're in a share house or a facility. Sometimes they're not so much. It depends on the maturity of the team, the players, and what they do and how they do it. And you can tell that some of the guys in the scene, and I wouldn't say it's a majority, I'd say it's a vast minority. What you'd imagine if you say, I play Counter-Strike for 11 hours a day. They're those appearance, I guess you'd say. But then you've got other guys who they'll compete every other day, and they come out and they're absolutely completely jacked. And their pastime is they go home, they do weights to brush off the whole day of computer gaming.
Yeah.
I'll point back to Astralis. They've got possibly the best coach in the game, who is an ex-pro himself. And he thinks of the game and the team on every level. And they have, I guess, a bit of an advantage that they are a Danish team, and esports, where they're from, is actually like a nationally recognized sport. Like, they have government backing, they have scholarships where people can come out of school and go and play professional esports, because it's recognized the same way as we would recognize NRL and those sorts of sports. So they've got a bit of an advantage there. But they travel with, I wouldn't say like a psychiatrist, but like a mental coach to keep their mindset good. They get constant massages and back rubs and stuff like that. You imagine playing games all day, every day, you're going to get very tense across the shoulders. You're going to have RSI in the wrist and the eye strain and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, there are certain demands outside of the actual playing the game or practicing the game for so long. When they go to the big events, they've got to perform just like an NBA player sort of thing. They're in a stadium with 50, 60, 70,000 people.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, it was it was last year, 2019, I went to IEM Sydney as a spectator, and it was 3 days in an arena. So you think about an arena show, you usually go for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours to see a rock concert. Mm-hmm. This was 3 days, and every day I was in there in the air conditioning watching the competition for 12 hours a day. It would start at lunchtime. One of the days I got back to my Airbnb or whatever it was at 1:30 in the morning. And that was like just grab the quickest food that I could and eat on the run. Different for the players that have the same schedule, but they're still there around and in the arena and socializing whatever for really, really long periods of time.
Oh, that's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, crazy stuff. And have a feeling that they're starting a precedent where more and more teams will sign bigger rosters to be able to cycle people out and allow people to get that rest. But we'll see. Not every team can afford to. It's not a super profitable thing unless you're really in the upper echelon.
Yeah, no, all the viewing I've done of Rainbow Six Siege, the Oceanic League, I've only ever seen the same names over and over. Maybe one or two will swap out. So maybe they've got one or two spare people, just depending on who's banned or who gets voted or what they have the recent maps and stuff like that. But hopefully we're going to see bigger rosters of people, and it's getting more and more legitimate as it goes on esports. So there will be, I hope, nutritionists and things like that. People are trying to move away from drinking too much sugary energy drinks and more on nootropics and stuff to look after them as well. So
yeah, at any event that I've watched, you never see them sitting out there with like a bottle of Coke or something.
Yeah.
They might have a Gatorade, but usually you see them chugging back bottles of water and all taking care of themselves, I guess, as much as they can.
Just before we move on to the Valorant launch, when we talk about the health concerns, there hasn't been anything serious happen yet to any players, or are we looking into just a precautionary thing?
I think just precautionary. I think Kirby was either beginning to develop RSI or just has been dealing with lower back strain and maybe an elbow pain for a period of time that's longer than is normal. It wasn't going away. He needed time away from doing it so often, and so he's just stepping back. I think Glaive from Australis is somewhat the same. I think he had a little bit of lower back, but also much more of a mental thing, mental burnout from the amount of time that they put into it.
Oh, good that it's precautionary anyway.
Yeah, look, all three of them, from what I've seen, have said they'll be back. It's 3 months or it's 6 months. It's a rest, it's a break, but they're not retiring. But we'll see.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So my other story for this VOD is the Valorant launch was last week. Yeah, last week now. This was touted around for months to be the CSGO killer. Mm-hmm. It's by Riot Games, so the people who do League of Legends. And they brought everybody on board. Coming out before launch, they went out and they got every streamer you can think of. They said, come in and play the beta. Come in for a whole weekend with all these other big famous international streamers. Everyone's got their own setup, play against each other, play test the game, stream it out for us. Huge, awesome marketing campaign. But when they started doing it so much, everyone quickly began to realize that Valorant might be fun to play, but it's pretty boring to watch. And what they've done, they've taken, I guess I would say, mostly the worst elements from Counter-Strike and the worst elements from Overwatch, and they've pushed them together into a new game. But you get in there, you think, okay, so it's like Spike Rush, and it's essentially plant the spike, which is plant the bomb. And you got, instead of Counter-Strike where you got A or B, you got A, B, or C. So you got 3 options instead of 2. Everyone's got special powers a la Overwatch, but it's just not there. It's polished, but it's not fun. It's almost like they tried to write a program that everyone would want, but there was no passion and heart behind it. It got released in Australia last Tuesday. I've played a bit. I've seen a lot of people been playing with it and played with some friends, and it is just the mechanics are not well balanced. They're just not. If
I can interject, I went from not hearing about this game at all. I did kind of go underground for a bit. I wasn't really on the internet or Twitter, just reading up on things. But bam, out of nowhere, every single person was talking about it. Yeah. And I didn't want to be influenced or whatever. I thought, okay, I'm just going to watch a trailer, watch whatever. The character design was so bland. It was just so... And then when I saw it, I thought, this just looks like CSGO, but with heroes, like hero powers.
Yeah.
Does it basically boil down to that? Like, not to be reductive, but is there anything unique in the mix at all?
Unique in the fact that no one else has done quite the same combination, but not unique in the fact that, each power, each type of, character type and each type of game type has been done in a slightly different format. For something, even Overwatch is a few years old now. Like Counter-Strike it's got the following that it does, and it's got the well-rounded mechanics that it does because the game is 25 years old.
Yes.
It's been evolving from engine to engine, from player base. Like, there are guys now coaching or fully retired who have had full careers playing esports in Counter-Strike. And it's fine to lift elements of that. Obviously, they thought they were lifting the best elements of it. It just hasn't panned out that way. It looks like they were trying to craft the perfect recipe, but no one actually was putting the love and the passion in it.
Is it fair to say everyone would have expected more from Riot Games?
Yeah. And like, it was, like, as you said, it popped up out of nowhere. It was, hey, there's this new game. It's going to be the Counter-Strike killer. And then within 3 months, it was released and it's free to play. Like, they ticked all the boxes of, you know, what makes games blow up, what makes them go well. And they got every streamer. You know, you had Dr. Disrespect, you had Shroud, you got every man and their dog in that closed beta, streaming it, hyping it up. And then when they did launch it, like, I understand you plan these things months out and it's very hard to change timelines. However, the actual launch day was the Blackout Tuesday for Black Lives Matter. And so the one day that pretty much every streamer in the world, all the big notable streamers, go dark for the entire day is when they drop their game. So day one, no viewership, no big name marketing. And you know, now I follow a whole bunch of big name streamers, you King George, you Dr. Lupo, and they're all still playing Fortnite. They're playing COD. They're playing everything except Valorant. In fact, I think the only positive thing about Valorant that I've really heard is that an ex-CSGO pro has signed to lead the 100 Thieves team when Valorant Pro competition comes around. But even then, it's one guy who tried for months and months and months to get back on a top-tier CSGO roster and couldn't find a position. Fantastic for him that he's got a leadership position building a new team for a top-tier organization. But it's just him. They're still yet to build a team. Valorant's only been out officially a week. So they're still, obviously, they don't have any pro tournaments. They've got small events that Riot are putting on and people who are planning and building their player base. But it's early days, but they've already had to patch out a whole bunch of stuff, even down to like one particular map was flagged as like, I can't remember the terminology. It was something like this week or this month's like legendary map. And so it had a higher hit rate on randomly coming up. And that randomly came up like 80% of the time. So I had to patch out the way they tagged that map because everyone was just getting sick of playing it 5 days into the game's release.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, PUBG only had one map for 5 months.
Yes, absolutely.
And people still went nuts over it. So, yeah. That's my news for this week. It's CSGO, it's Valorant, and not real good news all around for either of them.
One more thing about Valorant, just quickly. Did you hear the rumors, or I don't know, is it rumors, is it fact that it had some sort of backdoor spyware type thing? Like installing it had an anti-cheat that basically ran a script or something crazy. It
has its own anti-cheat that installs. I don't know about, it may have had something that was untoward, which they patched out straight away.
Yep.
I don't know the details on it. I have heard that their anti-cheat is actually really good. That's probably the one redeeming thing of it. It's like, hey, Valorant is this brand new game and it's got this great anti-cheat client. Valve, step up your game because cheaters in CSGO have been an issue absolutely forever. And ever since CSGO went free to play, cheaters have just been absolutely rampant. Although that's more so I hear. I very, very rarely see a hacker. There's a lot of people with a lot of skill.
I would actually say that all gaming is suffering from hackers at the moment. It's not just CSGO. I've seen strange things in Rainbow Six where people can teleport. People are floating outside the map on the air just so they can get a headshot through a wall.
Yeah, it was massive in PUBG. PUBG had a huge following in the Asian region where a lot of the hacks originate. But also, one of the big things about PUBG is it was free to play. And if you cheated, you could win. If you won, you got battle points. This is earlier before they sort of messed with the economics of the game. And you could get high-end skins. And then you could sell the skins on the Steam store. So if you cheated and farmed, you would realistically make money. That's an incentive to do the wrong thing, especially for people who don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of time. It goes back to the stories from now it'd be 10 or 15 years ago of like World of Warcraft
gold mining.
Yeah, you hear about the farms, literal farms of people just in a warehouse on this piece of junk computer, and they're paid a couple of bucks a day, which is a couple of bucks they otherwise wouldn't have, and they can help feed their family. All they got to do is sit at a computer and do grind quests to farm gold, and then the guy at the top has an app to sell gold for $60 or something a bundle to people in the Western world. And it was making money. And
it's fascinating and it's interesting, but it's also highly disappointing that it comes to that for some people, the appeal anyway. It's really, really interesting. But yeah, good to know Valorant is doing okay. I mean, in terms of being a safe game, a lot of games are compromised to start off. That's pretty much it for gaming news. One thing you and I both have in common, we both love retro games of all ages, really. So we both wanted to talk about retro games. We both want to do retro features, but I was
playing retro games before you came online tonight.
What were you playing?
I was actually playing the Switch, and I was playing the SNES emulator. So a couple of nights ago, I wanted to waste like the last 10, 15 minutes of the night. I thought, what am I going to jump into? And I started playing Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Yeah, and so when I turned it on tonight, it was still saved at the same spot as I was playing the other night. I played until I died and I jumped out. I was having a look what was there. I thought, I'm going to give Demon's Crest a go because you talked it up to me the other day. Played until I died. And I'm like, okay, cool. I've seen it. I liken it way too much to Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and the mechanics are nowhere near the same. So I've still got to get into it a bit more, I will say. It wasn't bad though. It was just different.
It could have evolved into a really good Castlevania with, instead of weapons and armors and things, just different movements. Like smashing through walls is really cool. Digging up things is really cool. Flying around the map's really cool. It could have really evolved into a Castlevania kind of game as opposed to just not knowing where it stands as a game. It's still fun though. Absolutely.
Yeah. The mechanics are odd to me. That mechanic, to jump and then just suspend yourself infinitely in the air. There were some parts where there's like in the early levels, there's podiums to jump across. So why am I doing this? Why don't I just jump and fly? Yeah. But then you get into the next bit where you've got to scale from wall to wall, and you very quickly realize you can't just fly, and it's very hard to get in between those like skeleton head snake things that come out. So yeah, a bit of a challenge. And then I jumped on Pilot Wings for a little bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that game is really hard.
That's really unusual.
Pilot Wing 64 used to drive me up the wall. I thought, geez, this is so hard.
It has different tiers of medals to unlock, is that? And like gold is stupidly hard, or platinum or something? On
64, yeah. From the SNES one, it's more points-based. You just got to, it's not gold, silver, or bronze, it's just points. And yeah, I drove the light plane into the tarmac a few times.
I like the jetpack one. But that'll be something we have to play, maybe challenge each other. I dare say you'll whoop me. But there's some really cool gaming anniversaries coming up. Now, I am cheating a little bit. I'm cheating a little bit because we wanted to start this. We didn't know when. We kind of missed our May deadline. But a game came out late May that definitely had to be put into our recent gaming anniversaries compilation that I've made.
Tell me what it is.
It's Daikatana. You do not talk about Daikatana.
You can't not talk about Daikatana.
Yeah.
What a hot mess.
Absolutely. Should we watch the video now? that video. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, to be honest.
That looks amazing, man. That's really cool.
I really wanted us to be able to just share it on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of thing, just on its own. Share it as a highlight. Right. Can we dive into the first game? It was Daikatana.
Take it away.
My first memories of Daikatana was I was a kid, and it said John Romero's Daikatana all the time, and all the advertising, all the announcements. It was almost like the working title of the game was John Romero's Daikatana. And as a kid, I was kind of like, who the hell's that? Because I wasn't quite on PC gaming yet. Obviously, we all gamers now know him. He is the legend, or a legend, one of the legends that developed Doom, and an original founder of id Software, I believe.
So when I was young, probably even up until the last 5 or 10 years, I had no idea who John Romero was. Right. When I was a kid, you saw Quake and you saw id Software, you saw Doom, and I'm all just like, John Carmack. Yeah. Carmack was the man. Carmack was the brains. He was this, he was that. And then as I got more into like the podcasting, the gaming trivia and history, I started hearing about John Romero. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I looked up, I'm like, holy cow. All right. Yeah.
It's funny because, Carmack was a lot of the brains behind a lot of the games. I feel like Romero may be one of the first games industry people to want to be a celebrity. Does that make sense? Like, you see Randy Pitchford and all these people want to be celebrities now. They love going out of these.
The personality just came along with what he was doing. He was doing what he loved, but at the same time, he's just like, I'm also a rock star over here. So, like the personality just came along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with like being charismatic or whatever, but I get that. Was it Family Guy or South Park or something where it showed Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and like Ben Affleck's just scabbing acting roles? Like, I can be in that, right? And he's like, yeah, sure, you can be in it. When are you going to actually write something? And he's like, get around to it, whatever. And he's just like sitting on the floor. Like, I feel almost like Romero has this heavy metal slacker Beavis and Butthead vibe to him. And I don't know how much work he's actually done over the years. I do know that he must have done something to tout this whole like Daikatana is his game, Daikatana is his game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know if the development timeline would say that maybe some of that work was lacking. I don't know. I wasn't there, but there's plenty of stories about it.
I agree. There's one YouTuber called Civi. If you've seen him at all, he lives for old shooters. He plays them through. He cuts them down to these half-an-hour episodes. If it's a massive game, you've got like 3 or 4 episodes. He knows the composers of the games. He knows the level designers. He knows, everyone who got their start now. And he talks about, he's playing Duke Nukem, and he's like, oh, this level sucks. And then he shows you that level designer was Randy Pitchford, who ended up doing Borderlands. He's like, oh, no wonder. This is a Randy level. And when you watch him play Daikatana, he's like, oh, my God, it's like all the worst parts of Romero, what he's known for over the years. And he goes, like, he didn't make any of the good Doom levels. And he'll show you who made each Doom level and why they suck and why the fans love them. So I don't know, maybe he peaked a bit early like George Lucas in the movie world. Maybe he came out with Doom, and because Doom was, if you look at who Romero is and you look at what Doom is, it's definitely a lot of Romero in that game. Like, it's got such a heavy metal thing. The soundtrack riffs on Slayer and Pantera and all these kind of 90s bands and grungy bands, and like Anthrax and stuff like that. It makes sense that Doom is a lot of Romero, but Daikatana just, at launch, I'm pretty sure no one was touching it. I just remember seeing ads for it, and then none of my mates had it, and there was these big double ads in magazines and special features. The game...
Like a hardcore ad too, wasn't it? It was like, the ad was like, John Romero is about to make you his bitch, or 100%. About to make you his logo, and 64 logo. That's... I think maybe the story and the vision that he had was just outside of his wheelhouse so far that he couldn't rein it in. I guess for anyone who doesn't know, Daikatana had a really long development cycle. So the concept was completed in like 97, but the game didn't come out until 2000, which is why it's in our anniversary section.
Yes.
The original concept was like 24 levels across 4 time periods. That's hard. Yeah, that's almost 4 miniature games that are well thought out.
Time Splitters could only barely do it, and it was ridiculous how they did it. Like, it was
my understanding is that the original timeline that was funded for and was expected was only about 7 months.
Yes.
So yeah, it overall took about 3 years. And I found, when I was researching it, I found out a bunch of stuff that just adds on top of the pile of crap that it turned out to be. Like, he made it. The game was mostly completed in Quake 1 engine.
Oh, wow.
And really late into development, he decided, look, Quake 2's out and it's doing really good, and the Quake 2 engine supersedes Quake 1, so let's not put out a game that's already on a superseded engine. Let's just port it across. But the engines were like worlds apart. And so 3/4 of the way through, or arbitrary number, fair way through development, they just stopped and they scrapped it and they rebuilt the whole thing in Quake 2.
I can see his reasoning for that too, because in the shooter world back then, it was about the engine. It was really about the engine and what's new and all that, because Rise
it's
of the
still about
Triad,
the engine for me.
100%. But
unlike Quake or Source, right?
Yeah.
Or it's Valve or it's id. They had the 2 main engines. UT came in there as well, but it was very Quake-ish. It's like, it either feels like Half-Life, it feels like Quake, or it feels like UT. Anything else is just like, no, they messed this up. They went too far from one of the 3
even
pillars.
Call of Duty was on a really, really old engine that was used in something else, wasn't it? Like, the Call of Duty started off with another game's engine and still had its roots in that.
Was it Source? I can't even remember what Valve called the engine at 1.6.
I think it was a revised build of like Doom, like Doom 3, something crazy like that. I still remember in Grand Theft Auto where they talk about separating things and you can't have too much, and it's like having ice cream and pizza at the same time. That's what Daikatana feels like as a game. It feels like ice cream and pizza in your mouth at the same time, because one level you've got this alien plasma cannon thing, which is not great because it's the start of the game, and then a couple of levels later you're in a medieval timeline with a broadsword trying to avoid projectiles from magic casters or something crazy like that.
It's all over the shop.
It 100% is. I have never played it, but a couple of things I've found while researching Daikatana was that it apparently has a very good Zelda-style game on the Game Boy Color. It's still Daikatana, but it's on the Game Boy Color, and it is a top-down Zelda-style adventure, which
that's I watched stuff up.
I watched a video of it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember playing the Metal Gear Solid that was on Game Boy Color, and it kicked ass. So looked very similar. And a Joe Rogan Experience podcast clip came up where Joe Rogan defends Daikatana, and he was like, that game was badass.
That Daikatana game, he took a lot of shit for that game. That was a fun game.
Yeah.
This game is fucking badass.
I do know that Joe Rogan's a massive pothead, so maybe it was just
a
time in his life where, that lazy part of our lives where I remember I worked at a server.
He's known for a lot of things, but video gaming isn't one of them, in my opinion.
No, and he might, I don't know, he might do a Conan O'Brien play games, and that'd be interesting to see what he likes. But yeah, I don't know. There was a time in my life, probably around the same time Joe Rogan loved Daikatana, where all I played was Dynasty Warriors because I didn't have a brain after knocking off of bartending. I just needed to press buttons, and that's all you do in Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, well, the only other thing I found out, I didn't get Daikatana, and I never bothered to collect it when I was retro collecting. I knew it was crap. It was one of those things. It was being hyped up from that 97, 98 period with those advertisements. It had a lot of money behind the marketing. They kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. It was the early version of Duke Nukem Forever, I guess. By the time it actually dropped, I wasn't interested. The 64 was 3 years into its life cycle. Other things were on the horizon. PlayStation was out. I did see, though, in the research that they actually played a demo of Daikatana at E3 in 1999. And so this is 2 years after the concept and 1 year before it came out. And on that demo, they didn't have the monsters ready. So they couldn't put single player demo up or a playable demo, they could only have multiplayer where they run around a blank level together. And it was so poorly coded, it ran at 14 frames a second. Imagine playing 14 frames per second on a console where the only thing you can do is chase around another playable person, not coded monsters that are also going to move at 14 frames a second, someone with a bit of sentience about them.
Oh my God.
I think, happy 20th birthday, Daikatana, but let's toss that in the bin. Move on to the next bad boy, which is Legend of Mana.
Have you played Legend of Mana?
Sadly not. My life in JRPGs has been 100% dominated with Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And my life in RPGs of the Western world is dominated by Legend of Zelda. Legend of Mana is one of those, I know I need to get to it one day, but I haven't.
To put Legend of Mana in the kind of the timeline of RPGs at the time, because holy crap, was this a good time for RPGs. I think Legend of Mana came out and I was just finishing up playing Xenogears, which was another Squaresoft game that had mechs and massive mech battles, as well as kung fu kind of battles, that it had a combo system. So that was addictive as heck to play an RPG that had kung fu and mechs and a beat-em-up combo system. And then I believe Vagrant Story came out around the same time. And again, Square.
Yep.
And by then I'm going to say Final Fantasy IX was out.
Probably pretty close. 7 was 97.
People were still playing 7 and 8. So, it was a crazy time for role-playing games, and there were so many that came out. Legend of Mana I didn't see everywhere in Australia, though I was lucky enough to get it.
It was one of the harder to find. You had the specialty retailers that would import, not like your Target and your Kmart. They got all the big games. It's very similar to now, really. You go to Target or Kmart, or even now, so JB Hi-Fi, EB Games, they'll get all the common stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's usually Target maybe pull one or two games that are out, off the beaten track, but they're the ones that you want because they're not stocked. They're usually the hidden gold inside the shelf filler that's released nowadays.
I would go as far as to say that FX Games up at Charlestown would have got it for me. And they were just Newcastle royalty in the gaming world.
I've actually got some of the photos of FX Games Charlestown, when it was still open. I've got photos from inside and in the mall. I know Neil, the ex-owner.
I hired Neil at JB Hi-Fi because it was FX Games Neil. FX Games wrapped up and he's like, I'd like to get back into games retail. Bang. He knew what he was doing. The only condition was don't put coloured dots trade system in place. Just leave the trade system as it is. It's funny. Retro gaming, you'll find the coloured dots every now and then. There's a green dot on a SEGA cover and you're like, FX Games. Just locals know it. That or you see a really ugly, hard to peel off holographic Video Easy sticker. But Legend of Mana had some really interesting, almost streamlined mechanics. So I didn't put it in that video. I really wanted to just highlight the combat and stuff like that. But
it's very hack and slash, right? It's sort of got a Golden Axe feel.
Yeah, it's there's a little bit of timing to it, which actually turns out to be a little bit more frustrating because you can't just mash. But there's combos, unlockable weapon arts, so skills, NPC companions that can also be player 2 can just pick up an extra set of sticks and jump in and play as them. Yeah. But when you finish...
The companions, the NPCs, they break all the archetypes, right? It's you're not humans and aliens, you're everything. You can be an animal. Yes. The NPCs are they're animals, they're humans, they're
there's a giant
rabbit, teddy bears.
Yeah, there's a giant rabbit that's like a scoundrel thief thing that has a backpack and a fishing rod to attack things with. You have a sentient cactus that writes in a diary every time you tell it, and you get these funny little summaries of the quest you've gone on. You get 2 twins that are different magic studiers, and they attack with fry pans until one quest that you didn't even know. You just take this quest, turns out to be one of their main quests, and they learn magic. And it was really, really interesting. And then you find these different relics and you can combine them, and that puts down landmarks on the world. So if you get a set of toy blocks and it looks like a little city, you put it down and you've just put down a new trade port, and you go in there and there'll be 3 or 4 quests. And it was a crazy game, but I am lost in a maze somewhere on my save from 20 years ago. I just got shit.
So it's time you trash it, you start again, and you just relive it from the start.
And I'll go to gamefacts.com and find a walkthrough someone wrote from 1999 and just have it with me while I play it. But Legend of Mana is definitely a game that should be ported. Like you could bring it to Switch now, and people would eat it up.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. So I don't know a lot about it, and I'm not going to pretend to. So I'm going to jump straight into our next anniversary game, which is Excitebike 64. This one completely passed me by, because in my opinion, Excitebike was fun, and trust me, I played a lot of Excitebike when I was 3, 4, 5, whatever years I was when I had the NES. Yeah. Everybody had it. It's almost like the game that came with the console, but it didn't. But everybody had it. And but when I heard Excitebike 64, I was like, okay, they're going to do Excitebike and it's going to be 3D. No part of that was exciting to me.
Yeah.
And even now, I don't think it's exciting to me. Now, I know that it was an amazing game. They did so many things from the soundtrack to, I'm pretty sure they had procedurally generated tracks that were then held in memory. So you could go back and play the same tracks, but it was also different each time you went into game mode. But my track of thinking is sort of, okay, a 3D motorbike game in the year 2000, Motocross Madness.
Yeah.
On PC, a extremely iconic motorbike game because you had just the free roam, you do tricks, jumps, whatever, you go up the wall, it's an effort to get there and you get just invisible booted
I remember
across the level. That was my jam, but it was released 2 years prior to Excitebike 64 and it looked a hell of a lot better.
Yes.
Granted, it was on PC. So it completely passed me by, but in doing the research, it's renowned. Almost, I don't think it's got awards, but it's highly regarded, and it's got a massive critical acclaim behind it. It hasn't sunk in. I don't get it. I don't even understand why they've rebuilt the Excitebike tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's just some cheap little motorbike game from years ago. There was nothing ecstatically special about it.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think as well, even though I was a kid, I was aware of just certain gaming truths. And one of them would be you're never going to have a fast game on the 64 back then. There's you know what I mean? There's nothing on the 64 that I looked at and went, man, that's fast. There were some bits of Lilac Wars that were buttery smooth because there was nothing on the screen. And the games that did run really well in that were those ones that used sprites and 2D assets and just a 3D track. So like San Francisco Rush and Cruis'n USA.
Even San Francisco Rush, awesome. that was a fast game, but it wasn't smooth. You could easily get lost in the speed of that game.
Yeah, and it was the thing too was they probably used the expansion pack, which gave it more memory, the console more memory. But again, I just don't remember the 64 racing games weren't its strength, and then you'd be surprised when something was its strength, like a shooter like GoldenEye or early Turok. Those were great games, but they took you by surprise. And then I'm pretty sure I would have been still playing 1080. I still would have been playing one of the V rallies, or I think it was Top Gear Rally was on 64, and that was really
you got your Mario Kart, Top Gear Rally,
Snowboard Kids. Even if I want a racer,
Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, 100%. Diddy Kong wasn't smooth either, but it was entertaining as heck.
You hit the nail on the head. Snowboard Kids. That was incredibly entertaining. For that,
there hasn't been another.
It's a hard mechanic to remake. I've actually legitimately gone back and played it probably 3, 4, 5 times in the last year because I love it so much.
Yeah,
but it's hard and it's stupid.
Yes,
it's
the fry pan.
The fry pan. It's ridiculous and it's very arbitrary. Yeah. I don't know if it's actual rubber banding in the sense of Mario Kart or if it's just an outright handicap, but it is hard to win and not that hard to control.
Did you notice that Snowboard Kids 1 has multiplayer like a campaign mode, and Snowboard Kids 2 does not. It only has single player campaign mode.
No, I didn't. I never went on to Snowboard Kids 2. It's such an expensive collectible, right? Like it's one of those games that's $250-$300 for cartridge only. That's a thumbs down. But Snowboard Kid 1, I've got some amazing memories of that.
Well, if you can imagine, like 12-year-old Nick or whatever I was, going to my cousin's house. He had a 64, I had a 64, so I'd take my controller over to his house. We'd go to Video Easy and rent something, and then one day we see Snowboard Kids 2, and we're like, oh, awesome, we're not sleeping tonight. We're going to smash this out. And then we can only do the races you've unlocked in single player and multiplayer. So
yeah, so just go home for a night or two while someone unlocks all the tracks.
We're just so disappointed. But yeah.
But that's how it was, right? I felt the same whenever, if my best friend wasn't over, if ever I'd come to my place and play games, and my best friend had come over and he'd bring his GoldenEye, but if he forgot it, or if he wasn't over and my cousin was over and we had to use my GoldenEye cartridge, then we were stuck playing 3 or 4 multiplayer levels.
Yeah.
But then my best friend would come over and be like, okay, we need to, laser guns and golden gun and this, that, whatever else on any level, and we can use any character, because he just completed the entire single player on every difficulty level. And I was just not good enough to do that.
Kids at school used to give me their GoldenEye and say, can you unlock everything for me? Because I was able to do it. Even beating archives on the hardest difficulty in 2 minutes and 5 seconds was one of the cheats for invincibility or something.
The archives. So good. I just love the level because of the quote out of the movie. He's just like, they're in the archives. And all these soldiers just run single file. He just gets away by knocking over bookshelves.
I haven't watched it in so long.
Touching on the end of Excitebike 64, again, happy birthday to this game. The extra piece of trivia I found on this is if you go into the enter a cheat code, you enter the cheat ugly mugs and then select view credits. And there's actually a photo of the development team all hanging out on a staircase in there.
That's really funny. I like that. I like when a developer has a sense of humor, especially about themselves. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, no, I didn't touch Excitebike, but happy birthday all the same, because you've gone on to be a cult classic and IGN gave you an awesome review when you came out. All right, so one last game was in that compilation of games having an anniversary, and this is a special anniversary because it's actually a 30-year anniversary, not just a 20-year like everything else we've been talking about, and that is Bonanza Bros, which launched on Master System, Mega Drive, PC, and arcade way back when. Have you played Bonanza Bros?
No, but the look of it, I'm going to say outright, I don't even feel compelled. It looks fun. It sounds fun. It's got really nice music. But the reason I don't feel compelled to play it is because I've played a ton of Spy vs. Spy and Keystone Capers.
Yes.
And it looks like those two had some sort of not messy, but really well constructed love child. Yeah, it's got the mini map and the sideways movement of Keystone Capers, but it's got the depth and the go find random bits and pieces of Spy vs. Spy.
Yeah,
and I love that. It's also, I guess, a testament to the game in the early years of video gaming that it has been out on every bloody thing.
Yeah,
legitimately, it came out on the Sharp 68,000, the Amstrad. Arcade machines, Commodore 64, Sega Master System, the Mega Drive or the Genesis, the Turbo Graphics. It just keeps getting recreated and recreated. Wow. I'm surprised we haven't seen it probably in the last 20 years. Maybe they overdid it so many times in the first 10, they'd left it to age like a fine wine for the next 20. You can bet someone's going to make Bonanza Brothers again, though.
I was going to say the characters are probably, because they're like cheeky thieves in the Japanese version. In the American version, they're security people that test your security. But in the Japanese version, they're cheeky thieves. So I imagine they're probably on a pachinko machine or a slot machine somewhere. You know what I mean? They probably got put on a lot of things. I like Bonanza Brothers. I had Bonanza Brothers. I wasn't keen on the fact that I had an older brother, so he got to be the tall one and I was the short, fat one. Because I did not resemble that until I was much older. And it's an interesting game, but it got very repetitive. Nothing new happened, and the level design wasn't interesting enough. And it didn't even get, when a game's like, what do we do? Fuck it, we'll just ramp up the difficulty. Bonanza Brothers didn't even do that. It just kind of was the same thing over and over, and the same music. And I always got really bored of a game when you're a kid that just had the same song throughout the whole game, which does unfortunately happen. But yeah, it was fun, but I don't think I could probably last a whole Bonanza Brothers now. And I'm funny on round characters that look like little eggs. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're like malformed Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, they're like little, like you expect to like pop them and then the little one comes out the big one or something like that, like those Russian dolls. I can be such a
babushkas.
Yeah, look, man, I can be a real hater on some things. Like, do you remember a game called Vector Man back on the Sega Mega Drive?
I do.
I just hated him because he was made of just balls. Everything was balls in that game. Everything was round and it didn't do anything. It didn't look cool. I don't know. I hated it.
Fair. Yeah, well, my fun bit of trivia for Bonanza Brothers is on the Genesis version. If you wanted to get to a level select, you needed to use the Game Genie, which is very reminiscent of a lot of things of the time. 64, NES, I think Master System, and definitely Mega Drive all had different Game Genies to enable cheat codes. Yep. But on the Sega Master System version, you just had to grab the second controller and hold up and press button 1 and button 2, and boom, you got the level select. So you just go do whatever you wanted.
Yeah, that's like a developer play testing levels thing they left in, surely.
You'd think so. It's so
feels
basic,
like a debug thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so basic. Like usually you get level select, like the Konami code, up, right, left, down, blah, 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 blah. But to have something so simple, it just seems like, this was just an easy way to get stuff done while we were developing, and they just left it in.
Yeah, no, a child could figure that out 100%. Like, that's not even... Sonic the Hedgehog's level select was so hard, you had to do up, down, left, right, A and start at the same time before Sonic was finished his animation where he comes out and does like these ones at the circle. You had to do it quick. Just grabbing a controller, you might accidentally find level select in Bonanza Brothers.
That's exactly. Just grabbing a controller. Even games were engineered with mechanics that insane. You remember playing like not Mario Kart, but Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2. Like the frame rates were bad. The responsiveness of the controllers was piss poor at absolute best. But you had to be, it's like you must be 3 feet from the enemy. Like, how far is 3 feet? It's a 2D game on a CRT TV that you've got to manually tune to the TV in the antenna tuner. It's like, what's 3 feet supposed to constitute? Like in sweeping distance, outside sweeping distance, and then you've got like a 12-button combo so you can rip someone's spine out. But
it was crazy, and it was so hard to get them done. I think...
Be damned if I didn't spend $12 on the magazine that had everyone's move in it, though.
I had one of those SEGA Bibles that thick that came out every now and then that was like $50 or something, but it had every game that I had in there. But
up at the Bay, I'm pretty sure the same group of kids just kept renting Mortal Kombat, and they'd do it and they'd find another fatality and they'd jot it down on a bit of paper and they'd just return it with the game in the case.
Yeah.
And then so the next people who got it, you open the case, it's like, yes, someone left the fatalities in here for me, and you try and add to it.
I remember that when people left cheat codes in games, and oh wow.
Just renting games. It's a forgotten art.
100%, and it was just, the playground had things, and I think my brother recorded him finishing Alex Kidd on the Sega because someone at school didn't believe that he could do it, so he played it a whole weekend and recorded it, and it was just this thing, and it got around the playground. It was just Alex Kidd on VHS, but it was just no way Ben finished it type of thing.
That's a feat, man. I still can't finish that game. It's hard.
It is, man. It's
Miracle
frustrating. Yeah, they're all frustrating, really. Alex Kidd's disarmingly cute, but it's frustrating as heck.
I remember like getting permission from mum to spend, I don't know, I had to like keep a rough calculation in my head, but she said you can spend like $25, which is a fair bit of money in the late 80s or early 90s. But it was at like 75 cents a minute calling the Sega helpline, Sega helpline.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I just couldn't find these goddamn bits of paper in Alex Kidd High Tech World.
Yeah,
it's like there's no enemies in High Tech World. It's it's a house and a town that you've got to figure out how to get out of.
It's the new Sega arcade that's opening.
Yeah, and it was hard. But at least they had hotlines at that time.
There's a trivia quiz at the start of the game, and your dad's like, "No, you go and study, and then come back when you know everything." And he's like, "What's the second world in Space Harrier?" And you're like, what? Like,
yeah. Oh, I really want to get further in one of the worst Sega Master System games. So I'll go spend money at the shop to buy one of the best Sega Master System games and never come back and play High Tech World again. I'll just go be a Space Harrier Pro.
That has been our look back on the games that have had anniversaries this month, and we're going to have some more in another fortnight for our next installment. But right now, I just thought we could just talk about what we've been playing. Thrax, please tell me about Valorant. I need to know.
Valorant, I'm way too overly critical because CSGO has been a part of my being since 1.3. Played it, on LAN for however long, 15 years, and then the last 10 years the LAN scene has disappeared. I've played it online, 1.3, 1.4, 1.6, and then whatever it went to after that, Source. Played Condition Zero, now CSGO. I'm a diehard fan. So when I play Valorant, all I see is a rip-off of CSGO. But yeah, I gave it a go. They've essentially cloned the weapons. They've cloned the money system. They've cloned the game type. They've added silly abilities. I'm not an Overwatch player, but I know it comes with silly abilities. And that's, depending on who you get, it depends on what you can do. There's a guy who can fly a drone around corners to see where the enemy is. And then once you pinpoint them, you pull out a bow and arrow and you can lock onto them and it fires clean through the wall. There is no way of missing.
Jesus.
So it's overpowered and stupid.
Yeah.
And then there's another ability where you just like cast out a radius and you see the enemy through the wall in that radius. It's actually like firing an arrow or like a little Peter or something like that into a wall. So I got to peek around a wall, hit the further wall, and then peek back in, and it'll put out the radius. And if they're behind like the Z shape, the other side wall, I'll know that they're there. But they clearly see it hit the wall, and then they don't peek, or they run away, or something like that. It seems like a stupid mechanic that's so easily avoidable. If you're playing like a very new player, to fool them. And if that's how that mechanic is, then that particular Valorant hero is useless because their special is so easily avoided. Then you've got the other guy, but you can only have one of each on each team. So if you've got 5 versus 5, there's 5 heroes. You just sort of pick one and you lock it in. And it's first in, best dressed. So if I specialize in the guy that shoots through walls, and there's 3 other people who specialize in the other 3 good ones, then the guy left with this radius who can see through walls who does nothing is just up shit creek every time. The load in is quite slow. The rounds are very fast. Like CSGO, you get like 7 seconds to buy up and you start the round, and rounds can last for a minute and a half, but there's that tense, that edginess. It's the other way around with Valorant. A round can be over in 20 seconds, but there's like a 45-second loadout timer where you buy stuff. You spend so much time standing around so you can browse through menus, and everyone who's in there playing it are people who love CSGO. CSGO, you just like, what guns you like. It's like bang, 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 bang on the keyboard, and that's it. Your loadout's done. Valorant, you only have to play for 20 minutes, and you've got the same skill and ability to just like tap, 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 tap. That's the loadout. They're the guns I want. They're the ones I want to practice or play with, blah, blah, blah. And then you're left for 30 seconds just standing by one of the 3 entry points to the map. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait and wait and wait and wait. Just thumbs down. Don't like it.
Yeah, right. No, that is a shame, but it takes more. It takes more than just kind of... It's almost putting training wheels on CSGO. It's, man, if only I could see through walls about now. Oh, here you go. I don't know. That's very reductive of me to say that, but it just sounds like, yes, CSGO can be hard to get into. Yes, it can be hard to be good at the game, but practice, LAN, do something. Don't just slap training wheels on it and try and sell a whole new game.
Exactly. It's all strategy, and straight away those players are going over to Valorant. So most teams that you go up against, they've all got the strategy from CSGO and they know how to work together. I just somehow end up on the team with just the new players. They just run around like, oh, look at this cool ability. And then dead, because the other team will just run rampant over you.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I've been playing... anyone who wants to go check out the YouTube. I played through Final Fantasy VII. Everything I could do. There's one thing I've got left to do in the game, and that is to get Aerith's final limit break. I had to start a new file, and I'm going to have to play about 20 hours to get that. So I'm doing that off stream. And then that'll be my first game where I got 100% of the Steam achievements. So that's why I'm putting time into that. Played through the Final Fantasy VII Remake on stream on our YouTube as well. Amazing game. Can't praise it highly enough. They took every perfect thing about Final Fantasy VII and they made it better. They did expand the game and they chopped up the gameplay. They had to. They sort of went away from the turn-based combat. They kept the ATB bar, but it's real-time combat now, and it works. They really made it work. But you were saying before with Square Enix, they have one game, then another game, another game, another game. All of a sudden, in one generation, they've got 6 JRPGs out, and it's all by the same company.
Yeah.
And they do that for a reason. So there's a very good game. It's not perfect. It's not a Final Fantasy. There's a good game called The Last Remnant.
Yes.
That I have on Steam. And you go into that and you think, okay, that's got a bit of a mechanic from one of the old Final Fantasies and this new mechanic and another one and another one. And then a year later, a new Final Fantasy will drop. And you're like, hey, that mechanic was in The Last Remnant, but the other ones weren't. So they bring out all these smaller JRPGs. It's like, throw all the shit against the wall and see what sticks. That's what they do with the smaller titles. And the things that stick that are really awesome mechanics, they then combine and they put it in their major franchises. So they really did it amazingly. And there's Final Fantasy VII, I've probably played it more than most people in the world. Like I've literally put thousands of hours into it. And playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake taught me so much more about the original that I'd never picked up on. In all the times I've played through it, all the in-depth lore that I know about the characters and the world, the remake filled in gaps that I didn't even know were there. And they just did it beautifully.
That's right.
So full playthrough of both of them is up on our YouTube. And other than that, I've been getting into Destiny 2. Never played it before, picked it up a couple of weeks ago, kind of addicted, playing it with the guys from work.
I thought you were returning to it. I thought you were like a launch player or... No, that's news to me.
But the amount of grind in it, I'm kind of glad that I'm not. Like I've got enough patience to jump into a new game and grind it up to competing or being at a decent level. And just today, actually, this morning, the latest expansion dropped. And with the latest expansion out, every item that was previously existed, they've sort of like yesterday, I'd play and I'd get drops of equipment that was about 962, 963 light level. Today, things are dropping at 988, 992. And so things are dropping today at 20 or 30 light levels above what was dropping yesterday because of the way they've had to rejig things for the new expansion that's coming in 3 months. And they started a new season today. There's a whole layers and layers of shit in that game. So that's good. I was already getting over the grind after a couple of weeks. Now all the gear is dropping that's much higher. It takes that grind away. It's going to bump me up to light levels that I'd never been at before very quickly. So got me interested for a little while longer. I'll probably stop playing it by the time the 3 months comes around, especially because I've just picked up so much stuff on the eStore on the Switch. Heaps of stuff. I want to stream it all. I picked up Moving Out. I picked up The Room. Picked up 9 Parchments, Bastion, Runbow. Just all this stuff. So I've got games coming out my ears. And Dead Cells, which got recommended to me by another guy at work. I haven't even started it yet, but I watched the trailer and he explained some of the mechanics to me about it. Where it's
so good.
It's like a Blasphemous, right? It's like a Metroidvania, but also has roguelike elements. So you can do the same run over and over and over and sort of grind for better gear.
Yes.
And better drops. So
you will start getting your ass kicked and then you will hit a rhythm and then you're speed running the game. And then, you're going through the game, you're like, oh, why is this door locked? And then it turns out you've got to get to that door in 1:30. You've got to get to the next door in 48 seconds. And it takes you, half an hour on some things or whatever, you're nowhere near it. And then when you finish the game once and you can go back and level up and get other things and go further, you end up with not just falling to the ground, but you can kick down to the ground and stomp like Avengers style. And then you get something that leads a trail of fire. And then you've got jumping drops oil and landing ignites it. And you just end up just like just slamming everything, speed running the game and finishing it in like 11 or 14 minutes or something crazy like that. And then it goes, do you want to play harder? And then you'll die again with one hit, but you've got all your abilities. So the strategy ramps up constantly.
Yeah, nice.
Cannot recommend Dead Cells enough. Hope Corrigan told me ages ago to get into it, and I didn't. And then she, I think, picked it up on Switch, and she's like, this is one of the best games I've played. I bought it, and then it came out into Game Pass. So I bought it on Xbox on sale, and then there was Game Pass as well. No, I absolutely love it. But yeah, I went on a Switch spending frenzy as well. I've got so much stuff and I brought the Switch in the office. The Switch was in the lounge room. It's back in the office now so that I can stream and record with it as well. Anything else you've been playing?
I played through My Friend Pedro. Again, an older game. Got hold of it. Just the mood struck me one day. Got into it. I thought, holy crap, like, this is actually really fun. I was watching the trailer. I'm like, there's no way gameplay can be that good.
Yeah.
Like, control mechanics just don't allow for it. And I got in and played it, and it does. But as I got into it, I thought, wow, like, I really hope this has got some serious replayability, like we've been talking about with Dead Cells, where you go back, you do things a little bit different, you go faster, all that sort of thing. No. I beat the game in 2 days, like 2 sittings. And then I went back and started from the start. I got halfway into the second level and thought, I'm done with this game.
Yeah.
There is no replayability to that.
I don't feel the need to go back and get the higher awards. Sometimes good enough is good enough. And some levels it's just, I know what I have to do. But it's kind of some of the games that are similar to Devil May Cry that come out, and it's you have to do, I think, Arkham City and some of the Batman games, they're fun. But to get the best rating in combat, you've got to throw this behind that guy. You've got to do so many counters, so many dodge rolls, when you could just end the fight by grabbing someone and smashing their face in. Yeah. I felt the same thing with My Friend Pedro. I went on a skateboard, I shot people with a shotgun, I did a flip, I climbed up the wall, but I didn't do 180s, and I didn't kick a guy in the face, and I didn't kick a guy's head onto another guy, so I didn't get perfect rating. And it was really, really fun. And if people are really good at it, congrats to you. But I was happy just experiencing it, and I'm not probably going to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
No,
I'm the same as you. I got the Switch in the office, so I can stream with it. I'm actually contemplating buying a second dock, so I can keep it all set up in the office and just take the console out and take it to the second dock to the lounge room, because the wife and I do. Like, we're a fantastic team on Overcooked and Overcooked 2.
Yeah, nice.
We've managed to 3-star every level in both games.
Damn.
That's how we know the marriage is in good stead, right? Like, we 3-starred Overcooked.
Flip burgers on the back of a flatbed truck on the highway and shit.
The ice levels get us, because I'm very haphazard with how I run around, I sprint and bumper into the ice and I get yelled at. But now I've got moving out. I played the first few levels by myself. I can't play this anymore. I've got to stop until I can get her on board, and then we've got to play it together. Got to do moving out 2-player, because those big lounges, they need 2 people to maneuver them out the door properly. But 100%. Very funny game, very cool.
Yeah, right.
How about you? What have you been playing?
Well, speaking of multiplayer games that are just so much better with multiplayer, I have been playing with the fiance Minecraft Dungeons. Got it a little bit early, but I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to absolutely punish the game and not enjoy it. So I'm taking it my own pace or whatever, but it is so surprising at how fun it is, and there's no depth. It is nowhere near like Torchlight or Diablo at all, but your kids will be able to play it if they can get the grasp of just, okay, I've got special abilities, okay, I've got melee combat, I've got a bow and arrow, and that's pretty much all you need. And we're having so much fun finding there's secrets to find, there are bosses, and it's all really, really basic, but I am so surprised that this game could be done in the kind of universe that is Minecraft, if that makes sense. Like, it's just, couldn't believe that you could get a really good, very light Diablo type experience out of Minecraft, and it's awesome. Really, really, cool. Really enjoying it. Especially, there's stuff in that game that you're like, they need this in Minecraft. Like, there's a spelunker armor, so you've got a candle on a helmet, so it lights up the dark, so you can see more in the tombs and in the zombie levels. There is a bat familiar that attacks things for you. There's a dog that attacks things for you. A llama that spits at things and slows them down. I've got spider armor so that I have 4 glowing eyes, and it gives me a little bit of light in the dark, but also like poison immunity. This is just really, really cool and basic fun things. And I don't know if it's going to do as well as I hope, because so many people are like, they look at it and they go, yeah, it's just Minecraft, I'm not interested. But if you actually give it a go and you go, wow, this is Diablo for kids, it's awesome for that. Yeah, that gets my big stamp of approval. And I've been playing too much Call of Duty Warzone. And when I say too much, I mean I've only got 1 win. I've got 1 win. And I've been playing the game all Season 3. I didn't play Season 1 or 2, but I got into it and I'm like, oh, okay, they've added guns now. It just doesn't matter. It's bananas. You know how Call of Duty just takes the piss eventually? This is well and truly taking the piss.
And so many battle royales are that way, though, right? They're so many people play them. So many people take them so seriously. I think like PUBG, I've probably got 400 something hours.
Yeah,
I've probably only got maybe 15 wins in that. Like, I have plenty
of
good games. It's the gaming
equivalent of getting addicted to a pokey for sure.
Yeah, the battle royales.
Yeah, that sunken cost fallacy of I've spent $40 on 2 battle passes, I better get some wins out of it, and you don't.
Maybe more of a lottery,
yeah,
rather than like, because pokey, right? You're just playing against a machine, but battle royales, it's the lottery mentality. Everyone buy a $2 ticket.
Yeah,
someone's got to win. 100%. Everyone's in their run around thing. Yeah, like you can beat the best player in the world if you just happen to catch them while they're running away from you. With their back turned. There's so much of that.
Warzone's brutal like that. Like I was saying to the fiance, if you play Fortnite and you're getting shot in the back from a distance, you can usually build behind you or turn around or go prone behind something or just get cover and you'll be okay. In Call of Duty, there's still a lot of lag, but also if the second you hear gunshots from behind, you're dead. That's just it. Just pack your bags, and you can either rage or you can just own up to it. But there are times where I get my butt kicked and I'm laughing my ass off as well, because it was just such a funny, there's so many times where it can be really funny like that. And yeah, like I don't know, I put C4 in the back of trucks just hoping someone drives past later on. And yeah, this guy drove past me and I put 2 C4 behind the drivers. He just glitched out, just explosions everywhere and he's dead. And then there's other times where someone sicked an attack dog on me and I had no idea how they got behind me on this roof. I thought I was alone.
An attack dog? Game.
Yeah, so there's like if you click and hold the melee button behind someone, you do an execution. So somehow this dude snuck up behind me on a roof and you just see his nod like this, and this dog just goes, like just rips my neck out. I'm like,
so where's the dog come from? Is it always there, or is it the execution?
It's not always there.
It's
like just the execution. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It would be cool if you had a dog, especially because one of the characters that they killed off in the main campaign is back with a prosthetic leg. Like he heroically sacrificed himself and they just brought him back, which is a bit dumb. But he's got a prosthetic leg. I reckon he should always have a dog. That'd be cool. Like, I don't care if you have to grind the end of the battle pass. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing too much Warzone because it just robs me of productivity, and I haven't streamed it and I haven't done any videos on it. I need therapy for it, but I've been playing too much Warzone, and I have been playing HyperParasite, which is a twin-stick shooter from a developer called Troglodytes. I had to look that up because I've said it wrong a million times on stream. But yeah, it's a twin-stick shooter, and it has a unique mechanic of body snatching, to put it lightly. You're a parasite, like an alien parasite.
Yep.
You take over a cop that first sees you, and then you've got the cop's gun. He's got a 6-shooter. It's powerful. He can take a bit of a whack, but nothing too hardcore. And then
you reverse Kirby.
Pretty much.
Instead of eating them, you just
you go and save them.
Yeah,
it's
dirty.
It's enjoyable, but my favorite character, and it is what it is a homeless person, because he has a trolley that just rams people, and he just kicks ass with it. So every time I get him, I'm like, yep, homeless guy, you're my dude, and But the game is unforgiving, and we're in this kind of flood of neon games. I say as my backdrop is always I love it.
The theming we've done for the Vodcast.
Yes. No, I love it, but we're seeing a lot of games that are just kind of, it's this, but it's neon, or it's this, but it's in the 80s, or it's this, but it's different. Yep. It always kind of lends to that.
Hotline Miami.
Yeah, 100%.
Monaco was one.
Yeah.
Just the color theme of it.
Yeah. I fully painted HyperParasite with that same brush. And then when I played it, it actually has a lot more to do with Loaded. Do you remember that PlayStation 1 game, Loaded? It's kind of like it's a low poly top-down shooter. And the game, HyperParasite, resembles that a lot more. And it's frantic because you've got dodge, and then if you hold down a certain button, you reject the body you've got. So skill comes in. This boss has a shield, and you bash it with a trolley, and then you see a cop, and you're like, right, now I'm going to jump into him and dodge, and it's so frantic, and I am not good at it, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Twin stick shooters aren't really my thing, but I like the viewpoint and the game style.
Yes.
Like for me, the epitome of that is like Alien Breed.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, well, like, because keyboard mouse, like you still get your WASD, but you spin around by moving your mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that sort of thing. I think Alien Breed would make a really impressive twin stick shooter because it's the exact game style that's just built on the wrong control platform.
There are a lot of games that came out way back that were twin stick because it was the easiest way to do them. It wasn't so much a stylistic choice or a conscious decision made by people, but I would love for someone to do Smash TV because that was basically Running Man if it was a video game. You wore these ridiculous jumpsuits and there were just these death rooms and it was a game show. And it was so awesome. And I've never played anything as addictive as that. And it goes way back to the Super Nintendo. HyperParasite comes close, but it's just unforgiving at times. And sometimes I'm a little tired to get my ass kicked.
Two, I guess, closing thoughts from me on that. Twin stick shooters that need to be remade. Virtua On.
Yes.
Fiber Troopers.
Yeah.
It was a legitimate twin stick arcade, like two.
Yeah, I played it, like to strafe. You had to do both, and then it was cool. Very cool.
And I lost my other thought. There was something about arcades. I just gone. It's getting late.
That is. We could wrap it up there.
We shall.
And we definitely will. Where can people find you online? Where can they catch whatever you do?
Look, at the moment, you can catch whatever I do. Actually, Playtopia ANZ on everything, really. I always say streamerlinks.com/Playtopia ANZ because it's just a very simple site. It's got all the links to everything. But everything Playtopia, playtopia.com.au. I think there's Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube. Not YouTube, it doesn't have a vanity URL, but Twitch and Mixer are the main ones. 3 times a week I'm up here streaming, and I basically just take over the Playtopia ANZ stuff. And as I guess as we go on, we'll have other streamers on there doing other nights. At the moment, I'm just kicking on usually Wednesday, Friday, Sundays, Australian Eastern Standard, 8:30 p.m. to usually 10:30, 11. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got like my own Twitter, thraxlol, or it's thraxlol on everything as well. But at the moment, I'm put that aside and just chilling in the Playtopia ANZ zone.
No worries. You can catch anything that I write or videos that I create mostly on playtopia.com.au as well. I do have my own Nickbait website, but I'm kind of figuring out where I'm going with that for now. I also have the movie podcast Fails from the Script, where I watch bad, obscure, and horror movies with my fiance Bessie J, who also streams. But you can find me everywhere, just Nickbait. Easy enough to find, just wherever you are. I'm probably there too under Nickbait. But apart from that, if you want to join the team, if you want to learn how to do this stuff, we're happy to show you. If you love playing games, we have got game codes. We've got stuff for you to check out. We would love for people to get involved with Playtopia because one day we're going to be doing events in the Newcastle area. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff in the Newcastle area. So if you are from Newcastle and you're like, man, always want to have a go at that, don't be afraid to get in touch.
Absolutely. Even really anywhere around Australia, if it's online games, something I've got a passion for is older, not retro, but older like PC games, or maybe they're games with dying communities. Happy to build a community. Come to the Discord, have a chat, get a dedicated room, say, look, I want to build a community around this, and just seek people out. Like I'm all for things like Left 4 Dead 2, where the following's long gone. And now the people who play are few and far between. But they're the kind of games that if you just get 4 people or 2 teams of 4 people who like the game and like playing together, you can go that game, this game, the other game, the game down the road.
Yeah.
It's you could have 8 people who like playing GoldenEye. You could have 8 people who like playing Left 4 Dead.
I'll play games with anyone. That's the thing. Like
It's all about community.
Tournaments. Yep, 100%. I'm playing Star Trek Bridge Crew with a bunch of people. I don't even know Star Trek. I don't at all. But the multiplayer factor is there, and it hooks me.
Nice.
No worries. All right. Well, you can find this on our YouTube channel, on our website. I will try and get the audio up somewhere as well. I'm sure it'll work fine. But apart from that, we'll probably see you in a fortnight.
Cool. Bye, Internet.
Bye, Internet.